Why? It's a boy. מי לחץ על הכפתור?
Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. May 6th, 2025. Let's get into it. So that video up front said that it was the Israelis filming themselves doing a gender reveal. What the hell is a gender reveal? Although it looked like they killed somebody. So the theme of today's video is usually not a very popular video for me, because we're going to go deeply into the Gaza and Iran. We're going to talk about both of those because all indications to me are that Trump is going to go to war with Iran. And we're going to kind of get into that in a minute. But I wanted to hit two topics up front so that if you don't want to watch, and I am going to present both sides of the story, okay? More on the that it's an extermination genocide. So if you're a Christian and you're all pro-Israel, you're not going to like that section of the video. But then again, if you're pro anti-war, anti-genocide, you'll like that portion of the video. Of course, the last part of the video, if you're not going to like that. So anyway. Can't cover everything. This is, I promised you I'd get back into Marshall Swamp for one more video. It's about 95 degrees. And I was worried about the bugs. So far, so good. And I'm pretty far down in here. I did want to tell you a story. If you don't think I put my life on the line with these videos, doing these deep hikes into the forest, there's a guy that just got killed yesterday. I think it was yesterday. A bear got him in a forest about 1 hour from here, south of here. They didn't name, I was hoping they would name the forest, so because that means there's a vicious bear in there. Like I said, I've only seen one bear down in here in Marshall Swamp, but that's the first bear attack I've heard about in a long time here in Florida. And it was him and it ate him and his dog. So anyway, so the dog didn't scare the bear off at all. And I don't have bear spray with me today. I've been pretty safe on this trail, but you never know. You know, there's always that one time. Anyway, so let's get into the first story that I wanted to talk about, which is Trump says he's going to reopen Alcatraz. Now I got two videos on that, and you know, what I wanted to say was I don't think people are viewing it in multiple ways that it should be viewed. Because a lot of people were saying, you know, the reason we shut it down, it was because it was so expensive to operate, okay? They said it's like 3 times more expensive to house prisoners there. And it's not really capable of housing that many prisoners. You know, if you knew that Al Capone was there and it was really kind of reserved for the worst of the worst, or as the government viewed them, the worst of the worst. I mean, grandma going to jail for January 6th, if you're a Democrat, you thought that was the worst of the worst. But anyway, so, but I wanted to give you a couple different things. Now, in the videos, they say they were going to house illegal aliens there. And that just wouldn't make sense to me unless you're going to pack them, you know, 10 per cell. I mean, or you're going to expand the number of cells there, I guess, if you renovate it. But the advantage of Alcatraz, okay, is, you know, if you've ever been to a prison, you'd be shocked at how many guys have cigarettes, how many have, you know, drugs. Whoa, that scared the hell out of me. Stepped on a stick and it flopped up and hit me. because when I'm making the video, I'm not paying attention sometimes well enough to where I'm going. Anyway, and so and also we've known kingpins that have been thrown in jail that can run their drug ring from the jail. Now the reason that is because they can buy off the guards, okay? And the guards, you know, so it's a business, all right? Because the guards don't make a whole lot of money, so a lot of times the criminals, they have their own network. So I mean, even though they're in jail, they're still running their business. They're getting in paperwork, you know, they're getting in whatever they want. It's but if you're on Alcatraz, you're not going to be in touch with nobody, man. So you could put some real hardcore criminals there and not have to worry about them bribing guards or getting communiques out or anything. I mean, they're just going to be locked up there forever. Boy, the swamp is still really dry, which is good. It's supposed to rain. So we're getting into the rainy season. Let me just show you what it looks like here real quick. So hopefully you're seeing that. Hard to do with the selfie stick here. Look how dry that is. That's normally completely underwater. And then let's get the other side over here. This is what it looks like. Man, I am sweating. Oh my God. I am sweating big time. All right. So that would be a good reason to open Alcatraz up, because you could put the worst of the worst there. And plus there's also the fear factor. You know, when you know you're committing a crime and that crime might take you to Alcatraz, I mean, it's kind of like the death penalty. You're going to really be thinking twice about committing that crime. I mean, the last place on earth I think I would want to be, well, maybe Siberia, I guess, might be worse, but would be Alcatraz. You know, I mean, just think about it. All you got is water around there. By the way, I wish I could remember the story about the guy that escaped. I think they just found out. They pieced together the whole story about the people. I think it was just one guy that escaped. I think it was 3 on the raft or something, and 2 of them died, and 1 of them actually got away. And I don't think they ever found him. But anyway, maybe look up that story if you're curious about it. The second story was, and this, I got a video. Well, actually, let's watch the videos on Alcatraz. The first one, let's watch the first one now.
You get the idea for reopening Alcatraz.
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, you know, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, you know, it's got quite a history, frankly. Yeah. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
Okay, so there was that one. And then I got a second video of Lindy Lee. I tell you what, she is, the Democrats lost a good supporter in her. I'm glad she's come around to the good side of the force. So, but let's watch Lindy Lee on Alcatraz.
Idea.
Charlotte, I like this. I like his aggressive attitude towards crime, the fact that we're deporting violent criminals, MS-13 gang members to El Salvador. I like that he's reopening Alcatraz. This is precisely the kind of attitude we need to combat the George Soros-funded prosecutors that we see around the country and right here in Philadelphia. It's obscene what's going on. They just shut down the Wawa across the street because there's a theft every 15 minutes or so. It's really just egregious what's happening. And Democrats use the bogeyman of anti-Semitism every time we talk about George Soros, but the fact of the reality is that he is funding these extremely lenient prosecutors that aren't doing their jobs. Mm-hmm. And so you have these cities are overrun with riots and thefts all the time. So doing these things, it's sending a message to the American people that there's a new sheriff in town that won't tolerate rampant crime.
Yeah, great point.
Thing I love most about it, he's putting basically in the People's Republic of California, right in the middle of it, and taking away a tourist destination and putting a bunch of criminals. All right, Lindy.
All right, so that's those 2 videos out of the way. So now we're going to get into the Trump just banned the bioengineering throughout the United States, gain of function research, okay, which is really fantastic. And it should have been, of course, it should have been banned under Obama, who said it was banned, but he knew it was going on. Fauci was still running all of that behind the scenes. Wouldn't you want to see Fauci in jail? I don't know, that little short troll, I think he's going to get away with murdering tens of millions of people. I give you that statement all the time. Stalin says, kill 10 million people, it's a statistic. Kill one person, it's a murder. You know, so Fauci's, I just can't believe that little troll is not going to go to jail. But anyway, hopefully, we'll see. But there's a different slant on that. But let's watch the first video, because this is Tulsi Gabbard with Megyn Kelly. And notice what she says in here. And this was before Trump signed the executive order banning gain of function. So maybe they were working on it at the time, and maybe they even got some more information, and that's why Trump banned gain of function. Let's watch that.
That we are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain of function research that in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually US funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that in many examples has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, and it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya, and look forward to being able to share that hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That specific
link,
correct, between the gain of function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary, because just so the audience knows, if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The thing that he denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right, under oath.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
And then strong-armed and smeared people like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, anybody who came out and said, I don't know if that's natural. This actually smacks of lab.
And the reason why this is so important is not just what happened in the past, it's because this gain of function research is happening in biolabs around the world. I got attacked, and I think you saw this, we've probably talked about it in your show before, when I warned against US-funded biolabs in Ukraine when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off, for this very reason. Who knows what kinds of pathogens are in these labs, and if released, could create another COVID-like pandemic. And for that, I was called a Russian asset. You're, trumpeting Putin's talking points, all of this nonsense, simply for speaking the truth and stating facts that, by the way, are still on U.S. Embassy Ukraine's website today about how the U.S. has funded these biolabs in Ukraine. But my point is, in order to prevent another COVID-like pandemic or another major health incident that could affect us in the world, we have to end this gain of function research and provide the evidence that shows exactly why and how it's in our best interest, the American people's best interest, to bring about an end to it.
All right, so that was the first video on gain of function. Now, I wanted to give you a different slant on the importance. Got to kind of watch where I'm putting my feet. That's why I'm looking around. Plus, man, there ain't a breeze stirring. I mean, look at this. At 95 degrees, nothing moving, man. I can't believe that I'm not sweating more. I mean, you would, if you saw my back, you'd say, oh my God. But maybe it's because I've been sick and my body just can't sweat right now. But sorry, I got off on a tangent there. But the other good thing is that if you didn't know, Russia, one of the things that they took right away when they went into Ukraine was they captured a bunch of our biolabs. And if you recall, back in the day, Tulsi Gabbard was talking about the fact that we needed to shut those biolabs down and clean them out right away. And then, of course, everybody, the legacy media was going, oh, there's no biolabs. We deny that there's any biolabs. And, of course, even the other congressmen were going, oh, that's a lie. There are no biolabs. And then, of course, we found out, I don't know how many it was, like 13 or 20, or it was a hell of a lot of biolabs. I was expecting to see like maybe 5 or 6. And then, of course, the research that the Russians found out they were doing is they were researching gain of function to kill Slavic people. They wanted to target a generic trait so that they could release that on Russia and kill the Russians. I'm surprised we're still alive. I would have thought Russia would nuke us for that all by itself. And that's what Fauci was doing. But anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that the Russians are, that'll be good in the future when hopefully we're going to negotiate for peace. Because I'm sure that would be something that Russia would want and say, look, you know, we want you to end your biological gain of function research, especially in biolabs anywhere near Russia. Well, now that Trump has put that out, so that took that off the negotiating table. And so that makes us one step closer to peace. I got another video on the biolabs. Let's watch that now.
Mr. President, a gain of function, this is an historic day, the end of gain of function research funding by the federal government and also controls by private corporations on gain of function studies. This was the kind of study that was engaged in by the United States military and intelligence agencies beginning in 1947. By 1969, the CIA said that they had reached nuclear equivalency, that they could kill the entire U.S. population for 29 cents a person. That year, President Nixon went to Fort Detrick and announced a unilateral end to this kind of research, what they call dual-use research that was for vaccination and also for military purposes. He then persuaded over 180 countries to sign the Bioweapons Charter in 1973. That basically ended gain of function research around the globe until 2002. Or 2001, after the anthrax attacks, we passed the Patriot Act, and the Patriot Act had a provision, a little-known provision in it, that said that although the Bioweapons Charter is still in effect, and the Geneva Convention is still in effect, U.S. federal officials who violate it cannot be prosecuted. And that relaunched a bioweapons arms race, and that was driven by gain of function research. In 2014, 3 of those bugs escaped from U.S. labs, and President Obama declared a moratorium on future use, and instead a lot of that research was moved offshore to the Wuhan lab. And it launched bioweapons arms race all around the country, all around the world, so that China's engaged in it, developing all kinds of weapons using AI and CRISPR technologies that are really devastating. Russia is deeply engaged in it, Iran and many other countries. It's a kind of weapon that always has blowback. There's always bad news. And the justification for this kind of weaponry was, and these kind of research, was always that we have to do this, develop vaccines to counter a future pandemic. In all of the history of gain of function research, we can't point to a single good thing that's come from it. And today I commend President Trump for his courage and his vision in ending U.S. bioweapons research.
Okay. Man, I tell you, when you've been sick for 3 days and you're out hiking in 95-degree weather, it's rough. But I want to get you another view here. I'm on another bridge. Check it out. Look how dry that is, man. Oh, man, mosquitoes on me. Gosh, dang it. They are out. Look at that tree right there. Let me get the base of it. Yeah, look at that. That is wild. You don't usually see that base. There's a mosquito right here on the damn camera. But I got to hold this with 2 hands to get you the view. Woo, that's something else. All right, so now we're going to get into the third topic on the video, and that is war with Iran. And of course, we're going to talk a lot about Gaza, but I wanted to just talk in general for just a minute before we get into the serious stuff, because I don't know if you're familiar with Code Pink. I don't want to compare them to Greenpeace because I like their mission. They've always been a very, an organization that protests for peace. And I mean, the woman that runs it, she's got tits of steel, man. I mean, she'll come right up into the latest video. If you watch Judge Napolitano, she got right in Nancy Mace's face and said, you know, are you for the genocide in Gaza? What's wrong with you? Are you for the genocide in Gaza? Can you give me a word? And Nancy Mace just looks at her, and so they always have a, if you didn't know, the Democrats and the rhinos, they always have a theme that they're going to hit you with. And she goes, oh, you're just a self-hating Jew, aren't you? Because she's Jewish, the woman that runs Nancy, or it's Code Pink. She goes, you're just a self-hating Jew. You probably, and then of course they said, we're going to investigate you. You probably work for China. Remember the Russia hoax? They always do the ad hominem attack. They don't have a reply. And I wanted to point out, if you didn't know, I mean, the Israeli lobby just owns Congress. And what was it? Thomas Massey said that in every congressman's office, or most every congressman's office, there's a AIPAC Israeli lobbyist whispering in their ear. So that's how many lobbyists the Israelis have on the Hill. That's why I said I don't think that Trump is going to be able to not override the people in his administration that are going to bomb Iran. Anyway, but so she was on there, and of course you got Max Blumenthal. I don't know if you've ever watched him. He's, I guess, another self-hating Jew who talks about Zionism. Now, I wanted you to think about this, because there's a difference between a Zionist and a Jew. I mean, it's like night and day. You know, it's like the dark side of the force versus the light side of the force, you know. And the Jews are pointing out that because the Zionists of what they're doing, I don't know if, and the reason I'm getting into this was there was a piece of legislation that just almost got passed that said that, you know, if you have an Israeli contract and you turn it down, you could go to jail and be fined $1 million if you went with another vendor rather than an Israeli. And then, of course, you know, they passed that, I think they passed it, the anti-Semitism bill, where if you say a bad thing about a Jew, you go to jail. And so what the Jews were pointing out, they said, this is building up hatred around the planet for the Jewish people, especially the genocide in Gaza. You know, most of the planet is watching this in horror. I mean, not the people of the United States. Nobody here really cares. But I mean, most of the world is looking at this, and so they're saying that the Zionists are intentionally bringing on anti-Semitism because they're not Jews. The Jews don't consider Zionists Jews. Although, at the end of this video, I got a guy that says that's not true. So you can hang around for that if you want. But we're going to get into the first video here. But I wanted to read you the text. But I'll just play the first video for you without the text. Well, I'll put the text up right now so that you can kind of read it for yourself because it's not very long. But this is, what is his name? Professor, damn it, I had the name in my head. This is what happens when you don't take notes and bring them with you. But probably his name is in the text on some of these videos because we're going to have a whole series of videos. But he's pointing out, if we do attack Iran, Iran's capable of launching 2,000 missiles and drones, I think he said like every hour. And they've got hundreds of thousands of them. Now, if you didn't know, from Yemen, they just hit Israel with a ballistic, well, I guess not a ballistic, maybe a hypersonic missile. And it went right past the best, we gave Israel, what is it called, the THAAD system? We gave them our very best air defense, and it went right past that and landed right on the tarmac. And so that was That was insane. But wait a minute, before I get into this, because I got another video that we're just going to do walking along. This is the video on the 2,000 drones from the professor out of Iran. Let's watch that.
Iran has hundreds of thousands of drones and missiles that are prepared for war. And Iran can launch almost 2,000 drones and missiles in one wave. And it can fire these wave after wave. And they go from across the country. So there's nothing really that the Israelis can do about it. The Iranian drones that were used in the first Iranian retaliation months ago were very old drones. Iran has very advanced drones and very advanced missiles. Iran's hypersonic missiles haven't been used yet at all. So there are a lot of capabilities that Iran has not revealed. Until now, it's been focusing on gathering information, gathering intelligence, understanding the Israeli regime's ability or lack of ability to defend itself. But as we move forward, I think the Iranians are going to get much more serious.
Okay. So as a result of that missile hitting the airstrip, the United States, if you didn't know, we're bombing the shit out of Yemen, killing, from what I can see, mostly all civilians. I don't see where we're killing any of the Yemenis troops. And Yemen has vowed that they're not going to stop no matter what. Unless we're going to put, that mosquito got me right on the wrist. Dagnabbit. This is what, when you have nerve damage, you can't really feel them until you see them. That sucked. Got to check my legs now. All right. But, so yeah, but the amount of money, we've spent over $1 billion bombing Yemen. Now, remember, a lot of people look at Yemen as a bunch of towelheads that don't, that have got very limited capabilities to fight back. And we can't even take on Yemen. How the hell are we going to take on Iran? I mean, two planes. We've lost 2 F-18s. One went over the side of a ship. Predator drones, the last I heard, it was 6, maybe more. They've almost hit the aircraft carrier there in the Red Sea because they're operating in very thin waters. And they said, more is to come. And then, of course, Israel that went in and did a huge bombing run on Yemen. They hit I don't know, there's been a bunch of targets. But I got a good video from George Galloway here. He's going to talk about Yemen and a bit about Iran. It's a little bit long-winded, but he says it a lot better than I do. Let's watch that now.
The United States carried out acts of mass murder against the people of Yemen over these last few days, night after night, raining down fire, death and destruction from shot and shell, from the air and from the sea. Netanyahu has entered what he described, or what was helpfully described for him by what passes for the snake screen media here in Western countries, a pinpoint invasion of Gaza. Rather like the limited invasion of Rafah that they promised the hapless and semi-comatose Joe Biden last year. But let's start with Yemen. The Yemeni people are the poorest people in the world, but in fact they are the wealthiest. They are the wealthiest in spirit, in morale, and in integrity. The Yemeni people, way and far away in the Gulf, on the Red Sea, have no need to concern themselves with what's happening in the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian refugee population there, especially when the countries closest to Palestine are arch collaborators, each and every one, including the newest of them, the Al-Qaeda, ISIS-ruled, now not Republic of Syria. When Palestine's neighbors are not only doing nothing, but actively collaborating with the slaughter of their presumed, supposed co-religionists, fellow Arabs, fellow Levantines, you could have forgiven the Yemeni people who themselves suffered not just poverty, but regime change operation after operation and a full-scale war, guided, fueled, armed by the most powerful Western countries and carried out by their very own neighbors in the Persian Gulf. You could have forgiven the Yemeni people if they'd said, we'll have to sit this one out. But that's the very last thing that they have done. Alone of all Arab states, all 23 of them, the people of Yemen have stepped up to the plate and done what they consider their national and indeed religious duty, to do everything within their power to come to the aid of the slaughtered, the besieged, the crucified Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. And my goodness, what power they turned out to have. Only in the last 48 hours, they landed a ballistic missile called Palestine right in the middle of the Negev desert on top of the Israeli Air Force's best and finest planes, men and women. They were on the tarmac. I don't know if you saw the picture. They were assembled in the parade ground for a fly-past or a flag-waving, flag-raising ceremony. And they all had to hit the deck, all 500 of them, lying prostrate on the ground because this missile had come all the way from Yemen. It's a small answer, but it's a much bigger answer than anybody else in the Arab world has been able to deliver. The breach of the ceasefire agreement by Netanyahu is painfully easy to see the rationale for, but none, and I mean none, not one single one of the snake scream media has seen fit to enlighten their viewers or their readers about it. If Netanyahu had not broken the ceasefire, if Netanyahu had not launched a blistering air attack killing 460 people in one single night, 300 of them in one single hour, almost all of them women and children, all over again, Nightmare on Elm Street, back again and again and again. If Netanyahu had not done that on that particular day, he would have had to appear the next day in a court in Tel Aviv to give evidence about his own corruption in his own trial. But of course, the court hearing had to be postponed because, hey, Israel was at war in Gaza again. If you can't see what's going on here, you clearly are blind, willfully blind, the worst kind of blindness. But the slaughter from the air has, and by the way, also from warships off the coast of Gaza, has now been joined by what the Israeli mouthpiece in Britain, LBC, helpfully described as a pinpoint ground invasion. Pinpoint. With pins. They're going in with pins. And they've got a clear point. Although when we see the casualties from it, they are almost certainly to be the same melancholy, dismal parade of women and children torn to pieces. Some of the video, some of the pictures this week has been extremely painful to watch, probably because, well, we had hoped and prayed that we would not have to look at these things again. Fathers holding their little children stone cold dead. Fathers fondling the pigtails of their little daughters just prior to laying them in the cold earth. The savagery of the barbarians in Israeli uniforms is breathtaking, not just because of the horror that it delivers, but the absolute insouciance with which the world's Western leaders, forever in a paroxysm about Russia and Ukraine, have completely ignored. Not one of them has said one word about the resumption of the slaughter in blatant defiance of the ceasefire agreement, which was solemn and binding, we were told. There's no question about who is to blame. The Palestinians have done nothing but comply in toto with their obligations under the ceasefire agreement, which you will recall had the imprimatur, albeit by auto pen, of President Biden of the United States of America. Although it was brokered, we were told, by the peace president, Donald Trump. Donald Trump gave the green light for the slaughter in Gaza the night before last. Of that there is no doubt. The Israelis said it, and the United States press officer also said it. She endorsed the statement that came out from Tel Aviv that they had been consulted in advance of this mass murder. This mass murder is of a level of the very worst of days over the last year and a half of nightly mass murder. It was not followed by mass murder last night, but it has been followed today by this pinpoint ground invasion, together, of course, with bombardments. The bombardment never stops. I've used the word barbaric and barbarian for two reasons. One, because it is, and second, because the, how shall I put it, academically challenged President of the United States of America, a man who has probably only read one book in his entire life, a man whose only book is The Art of the Deal, has taken routinely to describing the people of Yemen as barbarians. He also called them pirates, though, as my good friend Garland Nixon, who helpfully stood in for me on Wednesday evening, put it, the American people think they're on an ocean liner, but in fact they're on board a pirate ship. The pirates are you, President Trump. The barbarian is you. That you should imagine that the part of the world that invented mathematics, the part of the world that invented the number zero, the part of the world that invented algebra and geometry, the part of the world that had the world's greatest library, when we were living in the woods with our faces painted blue, and your country didn't even exist for 2,000 years afterwards, that you should call them barbarians when it is you who is slaughtering their children in their home when they have never done anything to you. In fact, the United States, throughout the Biden presidency, was bombing Yemen with great regularity. The United States has never done killing Yemenis, but they have still never done anything to you. Their threat was to Israeli shipping, a kind of modern-day armed picket line. Any vehicles, vessels going to or from the country that is committing genocide in Gaza will be intercepted by us, captured if possible, sunk if not. Well, actually, that was the only lawful act that is possible to do in the face of what the ICJ has called genocide. The highest court in the world requires all states to do what Yemen has done. It legally requires every state in the world to do everything that it can to interdict acts of genocide. So actually, the Yemenis are not the brigands, the pirates, least of all the barbarians. They're the only ones in this entire picture who are behaving lawfully, legally. And in any case, they were doing it only to Israel. I know you wanted Canada as your 51st state, or maybe that was Greenland. Is Israel your 51st state, President Trump? Because if not, you told us that you were an America First man. You told us you were going to make America great again. MAGA, you called it, not MIGA. Make Israel great again.
All right, so that's Galloway. So we might get some more on the hiking portion of the video here, but I'm gonna have to, there's actually a place where we're gonna hole up. It's a beautiful viewing dock, about another 45 minutes, maybe an hour down the trail. And we'll stop there and get the reading portion of the video because it is quite beautiful. It's just, I hate not moving along. Man, I'm going to sit still and just swing around and show you that there's not a breeze stirring. Unbelievable, man. I've never seen it this. Man, I hope there's not a storm on the way. Man, if I get caught back here in a thunderstorm, I'm a dead man. Oh, man. All right, so we'll get to the reading portion here in just a minute. You know what? Let's just get some scenery on the video, and I'll start going through some of these guys I post for you so that you can enjoy nature along the trail here. This is Tom London. He's a pretty good guy. I like, you ought to check him out on X. And, but he's on my side. And I say my side. I'm on Israel's side, but I think they're making huge mistakes, and I think they're bringing the whole world down on them. But I'll just read you what he had to say. If you're like me, you criticize Israel for ethnic cleansing, persecution, apartheid, occupations, genocide. Do you not expect rational argument? Expect to be called an antisemite, or if you're Jewish like me, a self-hating Jew. I was just talking about that. Or not really a Jew. Don't stop criticizing Israel. And I forgot to mention the reason that I'm doing this expose on Gaza. If you didn't know, yet Netanyahu has announced that Israel is going to basically cleanse Gaza one way or another. So they're going back in with everything they got. And they're either going to move the people out or kill them all. And I also wanted to talk about the food situation. I don't know how many months it's been, but they haven't allowed any food or water into Gaza. So there's a lot of people dying. They were talking about, and of course the hospitals are completely unoperational at this point. So anybody who had cancer or any pre-existing condition, they're dead now for sure. So they're going back in, and I imagine whatever civilians are left in there, well, I'm sure most of them, well, I shouldn't say most, but I would imagine about half of them are dead now. So you probably got about 1 million people dead, you know. And of course, the Christians and the Zionists are perfectly okay with that. Anyway, the other one was that they said they might start letting food trucks back in, but whereas it used to be 600 per day, they're going to allow 60 in, and they wanted U.S. troops to escort them in. Now, I don't know if that's something that Trump agreed to. That was just something that I heard. That was the first I heard of it, so you're probably hearing it for the first time here, that they're going to actually start letting food. And I imagine there's water on those trucks back in, but only 60 per day. So you're still starving the people out. And plus, think of that situation. When those trucks came in, you know, all those people starving to death, it's going to look like something out of the zombie apocalypse, man. All those people are going to be running up to those trucks to get the food, probably, and they're going to trample each other trying to get there, you know, because I don't know about you with self-preservation, but, you know, a lot of people, they'll climb right over top of you to get to the food, especially if you got kids and, you know, you're trying to get some food for your kids. So maybe that's what the Israelis are thinking about. They want the people crawling all over top of each other to get to the food because there'll be so little of it. It's just a thought. I don't know. We're going to do these one clip at a time. So we're just going to keep moving along. We'll get to the next clip here in just a second. All right, we're getting somewhat out of order on the videos. This is a video from RT. This is not, when I say it's not recent, it's no more than maybe a week or two old. But this was Netanyahu when they first broke the ceasefire, or somewhere around that time. Daggone it, something's biting me on my shoulder. Can't get to it, but I want to get this. I want to read this to you. We have gone back to fighting with great might. Netanyahu. Israel will take growing action against Hamas. From now on, negotiations will only be under fire. Let's get a tree on the video. Oh, that's crazy, isn't it? Whew. I wish I could get a breeze going. All right, let's watch that video.
Other authors, we also confirmed Witkoff's plan. However, Hamas rejected time and again every proposal made. And I told you many times that if Hamas will continue to refuse, if it will not release our hostages, we will go back to fighting. And indeed, we have gone back to fighting. We have gone back to fighting with great might. Together with the Minister of Defense, I have been given the recommendation of Sa'ar and the defense establishment to go into intense fighting against Hamas. From now on, Israel will take growing action against Hamas with greater intensity. From now on, negotiations will only be under fire. Hamas has already felt over the last 24 hours the Israeli strength, and I want to promise to you and to Hamas that this is just the beginning. We will continue to fight in order to achieve all of our goals in this war, release all of our hostages, destroy Hamas, and make sure that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel.
Yeah, no way we could have stopped on that viewing platform. I got to move along here. The mosquitoes. Oh man, what happened? I lost my. Oh, you bastard! Dagnabbit, I lost my place. Hold on. Well, I cut the phone on just in time. I'm glad we messed up there for a second. So this is an old video also from RT. Death toll climbs. 340 Palestinians reported dead in overnight attacks on Gaza. Let's watch that video now.
Some in a critical condition now being treated at hospitals. This is the heaviest assault on Gaza since the truce was agreed upon in January. That ceasefire now seems to have come to an end. Israel says it was targeting Hamas commanders and infrastructure.
All right, let's see if I can work through this thread. I mean, I tell you, this X is real touchy. And unless you're sitting down, kind of reading X in a leisurely fashion, instead of being out hiking, I just got some bugs up my nose. Whew. We won't be doing this again this year. Man, oh man. But this is... Operation True Promise 2 showed that Israel is defenseless against Iranian missiles. Former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense Chaz Freeman. Even U.S. support won't be able to help Israel much, he added. And let's watch that video.
Clearly, Israel, even with the strong support of the United States and the United States Navy, Standard missiles, and the THAAD installation that has been placed in Israel, cannot effectively stop an Iranian attack if one occurs. That's what the last October 1 attack demonstrated. And indeed, there were minor demonstrations of that in April. So this is a sort of bravado, maybe hubris.
Oh, good. Here we go. I managed to make it down without moving the phone. God, I hope I don't trip on the root here. I'm taking a look. Don't forget that Israel is a small country with a handful of key energy facilities. Same goes for other important economic assets, such as ports. It wouldn't take all that much for Iran to cause blackouts across Israel and cripple its economy. And we got a graphic right here. All right, so we're going to get into... Man, I'm doing good scrolling this. We might get through this whole thread without me having to make another clip. What happens if the U.S. Attacks Iran? Iran will be, let's see, Iran will retaliate by destroying all U.S. military bases in the region and punish, sorry, mosquito on my face, and punish the countries hosting these bases. This will cause oil prices to explode. Speaking of a global economic, sparking a global economic crisis, let's watch that video now.
Let's assume that the United States strikes Iran. The United States has bases all across the Persian Gulf. The Iranians will hit out at those bases. And then the Iranians will also punish those countries that host those bases. What will happen? The price of oil and gas would go through the roof. These are easily accessible. In addition, the Red Sea would no longer be safe for oil and gas. The Western economies would collapse if there's a major escalation in our region. The United States, its assets across Iraq would be crushed. They would be overrun, and by extension, Syria as well, and Lebanon. The world has changed. This is not just Iran, by the way. This is the whole of West Asia.
All right. Whew. We're doing good. I haven't clicked it off. Hold on. I got to get a bug on my neck. There. Got him. Although the U.S. and Israel can undoubtedly inflict serious damage on Iran, they will struggle to destroy Iran's key military assets. Most of them are stored in elaborate underground cities. Now, notice he said cities. I don't know if you've seen pictures of these places. And by the way, Iran has, well, I'll let the video speak for itself, but they got about 100 of these. And well, I'm sure Israel probably knows where they all are, but unless you're going to hit them with a nuke, which I guess Israel could, you know, hey, check out the squirrel. Damn it. I had him for a second. Let's go have him when you're talking. Oh, well, at least we saw some of the wildlife on the trail. So let's see. Let's watch that video.
Well, Iran can definitely outgun the Israeli regime. Iran has many underground missile cities and drone cities across the country. Those were created to protect the country against a potential American attack. In 2003, when the Americans invaded Afghanistan and Iraq, and they effectively surrounded Iran, and they had a very huge presence in the Persian Gulf, Iran began to develop these underground missile and drone cities that are they're very well protected. They're deep underground. And that is what deterred any American attack. The reason why the Americans never attacked Iran was because of Iran's ability to protect itself. So the Israeli regime is very small, very vulnerable, completely dependent on the West. In any major exchange, the regime's infrastructure would be destroyed very swiftly.
Okay. All right. We're doing good. Hey, we're coming up on another bridge. We'll get a view off of the bridge. Israel doesn't have many options for destroying Iran's underground military and nuclear facilities. Yeah, they do. Called nuclear weapons. Sending bombers with heavy bunker buster bombs, 15,000 km, and back is a huge logistics challenge. Former MI6 Alistair Crook. So this is Alistair Crook. He's a regular on Judge Napolitano. Check out the lizard. Hey, we got one. Check him out. Let's see if we get close. He's moving. He's moving. Looks like a little dinosaur, doesn't he? Check him out. Oh, there he is. All right. So we're getting a look from the bridge. Whew. Let's watch Alistair Crook right now.
It's not really that clear to me anyway. I'm not the military expert. I make point of that saying it. But it's not clear that actually an attack on Iran is that feasible. It would take dozens of aircraft. Yes, they have large bombs, but some of these bombs, we're talking about the big bunker busters, weigh 13 tons each. And that and munitions means that the aircraft, which has to fly 1,500 kilometers, about 1,000 miles from Israel to Iran, is carrying a large load. And the only way they can do that is by refueling en route. Now, Israel has ordered some more refueling tankers, but I think they haven't arrived. And we see American refueling tankers arriving in the region and Cyprus and so on. No doubt they're there for part of the American support for bombing Iran. So, yes, they can do that, but then you can't just send bombers. Then you have to send a fighter escort. And the fighter escort has to be refueled as well. And then you have to find a path to get to Iran through perhaps hostile territory. And also you hope that you can get your people back from Iran. And that's only the start of the problems, because the Iranian nuclear program, much of it in Fordo and places like that, is it buried in a mountain. And even with these large 13-ton bombs, they will only go down to 60 meters. You know, this is why they had to use 80 just to get down to that level in Beirut to kill Hassan Nasrallah. And so it will be a major operation to do that, require substantive help from the United States.
Okay, so there was that video. Boy, it's going to take a long time for me to make this video. So if you don't believe everybody that I've shown you so far about the seriousness of us attacking Iran and what it implies, because I'm trying to bring home the bacon here, man. I'm trying to bring home the bacon. You know, we've talked about anti-Semitism and how, you know, all the Israel, whether you want to call them Jews or Zionists, I call them Zionists. I mean, they're breeding a lot of hate around the world, man. Maybe not here in the United States, but a lot. Hey, there goes another squirrel. Check him out. Woo. Man, I got the video on at just the right time. So this is U.S. allies in the Middle East strongly oppose strikes against Iran nuclear facilities. If Iran's nuclear power plant in Bashir is attacked, the Persian Gulf's water supply will be contaminated, and Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE will run out of water within 3 days. So you can see, if we attack Iran and we hit these facilities, not only are we going to turn the whole damn Middle East against the Israel, we're going to turn them all against the United States. So I don't know what Trump and the Trump administration's thinking about. Sure does look like we're going to war, and that's another thing. Congress has not declared war, man. So, you know, I didn't elect Trump to be a war president. I wanted him to be a peace president. Oh, we can't let Iran get a nuclear bomb. Well, guess what? Korea's got a nuclear bomb. Nothing happened there. You know, Pakistan's got a nuclear bomb. Nothing happened there. Let's see. Who else? I mean, there's all kinds of countries now with nuclear weapons. You know, Russia's got it. China's got it. We got it. Israel's got it. You know, who else has got it? India's got it. You know, now I'm not saying this is making the world a very safe place. Don't get me wrong, man. But anyway, this is an interview that Tucker Carlson was doing. Let's watch that video now.
And we will not give up until we see a diplomatic solution between the U.S. and Iran. This needs to reach to an agreement.
May I ask, just going back a second, you've said that there's the Iranian nuclear facility directly across the water from you. Mm-hmm. If that were blown up and nuclear material wound up in the water, since it's right on the water, what would happen to the water?
This will be basically entirely contaminated. We have run this exercise of risk in the country a few years ago before we built our reservoirs. We had the water that we use for our people is from desalination, and we don't have rivers, we don't have water reserves, and basically the country would run out of water in 3 days.
So the whole country?
The whole country. Now, after the reservoirs, we increase that capacity, and we keep increasing it. But this is not only applied for Qatar. This is applied for Qatar, this is applied for Kuwait, this is applied for UAE. It's all of us in that part.
So if that nuclear site gets blown up and nuclear material winds up in the water, none of those countries have water?
No water, no fish, no, nothing. Like, it has no life.
Oh, so that would be a history-changing environmental catastrophe.
It is an environmental catastrophe. That's why I'm telling you that's the position of Qatar in the map and the region with Iran, a lot of people, they don't even understand it. I remember once I went to visit the U.S. Congress, and I was meeting with one U.S. senator, and we were discussing about Iran, and he said basically you don't have to deal with them. And I drew for him a map on his desk. For the first time, he realized that these two countries are that close to each other. So there are a lot who doesn't see this region as close, to Iran, and like it's too intertwined.
So they don't have maps in the Senate?
No, they do have maps, but probably they don't know how to spot Qatar. We are very small.
Woo, hey, I'm almost done. Another bug on my arm. Oh man, that sucks. See, I can't really fend them off while I'm reading to you and trying to get the nature on the video. Hey, you can see where I'm doing this trail. Isn't this awesome? There, see that dragonfly? There he goes. Pretty cool. All right. Attacking Iran's nuclear facilities would be a disastrous decision of historic proportions. Although Israel wants to attack them, I'm telling you, the Zionists are batshit crazy. Even if the U.S. and Israel ultimately prevail, they will almost certainly have to pay an astronomical price that will overweigh the benefits from victory. And he's got a real good graphic of Trump and Netanyahu looking at a map here. I don't know if that's AI generated, probably is. Oh man, we did it. We got to the end of the thread. Oh man. It's funny, I was just listening to the radio. I forgot to tell you what the Israelis hit the port in Iran the first time that they bombed them after Yemen was able to hit their airport. Now, if you wanted to go tit for tat, I mean, from what I understand, it was just one missile and it didn't do much damage, but Israel blew the living shit out of the Yemen port. From what I understand, there were some huge explosions that took place, but Israel just ran another bombing run probably just about an hour ago, and they hit Yemen's international airport. So now I imagine there's not going to be anybody able to fly into Yemen, so they hit them hard there. I just wonder, when does the United States and Israel run out of bombs? My God. I mean, I didn't think our manufacturing was that good. I mean, we gave so many to Ukraine that it was unbelievable. And they were saying our stockpiles were low, and that the Pentagon was getting worried about, Biden was depleting all our stocks because he was giving pretty much everything to Ukraine. And so now we're giving, I guess, the rest to Israel. I know we make a certain number a year, but it seems like we're going through that inventory pretty damn quick. And especially, it's not like you can make a plane every other day. So with 2 planes gone, and those Predator drones, those are, imagine, take a while to make. And God knows what we gave. Oh, well, yeah. I forgot there was 2 HIMARS systems blown up in Ukraine. Forgot about that. So how many HIMARS do we have left? I think we're pretty much out of ATACMS. I've given you numbers on that in previous videos. Good Lord, I think we gave them like 500 or something, and we didn't have that many to begin with. So our stocks got to be getting low, man. I mean, if somebody wants to attack the United States, I wonder how much we've got left to defend ourselves with. I'm just saying, just a thought. All right, that's it. I'm done with all my bookmarks on Gaza. I went back through them, but it did remind me to talk about a certain thing because I had bookmarks on other things. You got to remember, Israel is also at war with Lebanon, okay, specifically Hezbollah, but they bombed the shit out of Beirut. I mean, Hezbollah, from what I understand, doesn't have a huge presence in Beirut. So they've made an enemy out of all of Lebanon. So, those people hate Israel. And then, of course, now they're bombing Yemen. So, of course, Yemen was already kind of bombing Israel because, and by the way, you got to understand the reasons. I thought it was a noble reason. They were bombing, Yemen got into the fray because they wanted Israel. All Israel had to do was stop bombing Gaza, and Yemen would have stopped bombing Israel, okay? And same with Hezbollah. But Israel wants to exterminate the Palestinians. And by the way, they did say that's it. They're going in, they're going to occupy all of it. By the way, the call-up numbers, I don't know if this is true or not. They called up like 3,000, and one of the generals told Netanyahu that maybe half of those are going to show up to go in and fight in Gaza. So, you know, it doesn't seem like they got the numbers to be able to take all of Gaza. But, you know, if you've got them starved out pretty good, and they're, you know, they're weak from no food and water, you know, I'm talking about Hamas, you know, maybe they could go in there and run over them pretty quick, you know. So, unfortunately, all the civilians are dead too, but, you know, I guess that doesn't matter. But, you know, so, and then, of course, you got Syria, the situation in Syria. And from what I understand, that terrorist that just took over Syria, because Israel bombed real close to him, he's gone against Israel. So you see how they're making enemies on all sides, man. And then, of course, Turkey. From what I understand, Turkey and Israel are about ready to duke it out on some territory that... I thought I heard something in the woods here. Let's be quiet for a second. Okay, maybe it's my imagination. Okay, all right. I got bear on my mind. I mean, after hearing about that guy getting eaten by the bear, I'm thinking, you know, not a good idea to be back here with no weapon, no bear spray. I figure, well, I could hit him with the camera. Maybe if I just shoved it right into his mouth, you know, that the electronics in the camera might poison him or something, you know, but I imagine he'd have me eaten by then. All right, so anyway, I just wanted to point out how they're making enemies all around, you know. So they got enemies in Lebanon, enemies in Syria, enemies in Turkey. Of course, Iran, that's their enemy. And if we do bomb Iran and destroy that nuclear power plant, now the United States Emirates are going to be our enemy, Qatar's going to be our enemy, and Israel's enemy. So you can see we're turning the whole Middle East into a powder keg. And by the way, think about the terrorist organizations that are here in the United States. Don't tell me when Biden brought in 20 million illegal aliens that, I mean, if I was Iran, I would have at least said, okay, let's get some of our loyalists in there. And I'm not calling them terrorists until they commit an act, okay, because they haven't done anything yet. If they were terrorists, they would be terrorizing the United States. I mean, maybe they have. We just don't know about it, but it could be. Because there's been stuff blowing up here in the United States. I've done videos on that in the past. But anyway, so you know that they got, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, they would have sent people in because Mayorkas didn't care. By the way, why isn't Mayorkas in jail for treason? You know, fly in 20 million people. And by the way, I hope you go back and watch my videos on illegal aliens, you know, because I was talking about the fact that the courts were silent when we brought them in, but now they want us to give them a proceeding to take them back out. And I told you they were just here on a vacation, and we're just sending them home. So it doesn't seem right to me. By the way, I don't do this, but I did find myself on videos, you know, so please like and subscribe if you like my videos, because I have very few subscribers and likes on these videos. I guess I'm just too controversial for most people. Hey, I think we're going to get a view from the viewing platform. Let's, yeah, no, this is just the other trail. Somehow I walked right past the viewing platform again. Well, we'll get it on the way back. All right. All right, I hadn't passed the viewing platform. I didn't realize it was past the first trailhead. I thought it was before that. So cool. Boy, you can tell it needs a little work there. Let's hope we don't, well, it's dry, so if I fell through the boards here, I wouldn't get wet at least. So, you know, maybe you can see this little disrepair here. You know, maybe why I have never seen a crock back here is because it does get dry like this. You know? I hadn't seen it this dry before, but I guess it gets like this, and so any crocs, I'm pretty sure they got to have water. Or alligators, I should say, instead of crocs. Crocs, I think, ocean. But yeah, this is the viewing platform. Boy, during the winter, this is a nice place to come and have a picnic, you know, and just sit here and enjoy it. Not right now. Got a mosquito right there on the camera again. So let's keep moving. But look at those coming up out of the ground. Doesn't that look like something in a cave? I wish I don't know what they're called since they're coming from the trees. Well, let's look up at the top of the foliage here. So, and then you got more going in that direction. Okay, I'm sorry, we're getting long on this video, I'm sorry. Got another lizard, let's see how close we can get to him. Well, that was cool. Just wanted to give you a different look because we're coming out of the trail. One of the reasons that I like hiking this trail is you can kind of see the structure off in the distance here. There's water at the end of the trail. Now I packed water, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to drink my whole damn water bottle because there's a picnic table, or picnic shelter actually. And then I'm going to refill that at the water fountain and drink the whole damn thing on the way back. I mean, but it does give you incentive, because I can't tell you, when them bugs were on me, I was thinking, I need to turn around. This is miserable, you know. Can't stand the bugs being on me. So just in case anybody ever watches this video that's a hiker, this is the trail. It's 2.5 miles in length, of course, 5-mile round trip. And there's a marshal swamp all the way through. But it's funny, I was just hearing on the radio, check this out. Not a single car in the parking lot. So let's get back on the trail, but I had another piece of news for you. They've come up with a device that regulates the speed on a car to a certain number of miles an hour above the speed limit. And speeders that get caught, they're now installing that device on their vehicles in certain states. But I imagine that all 50 states are going to put that in. And they're talking about, at least on new vehicles, that they'll install it on the new vehicles. So speeding, I got a friend who loves to put the hammer down. He might not be able to speed much longer, especially if he gets a ticket. I wonder if North Carolina is one of those states. Anyway, you know, I got relatives there. All right, I thought that was just a good story. I just want to show you the parking lot too. I won't see a single person on this trail. Let's hope I don't have a damn heart attack on the way back. It's hot. Always want to get the weird stuff on the video because I'm doing the loop trail. I forgot about this. There's a sign here that says service road. What the hell's going to drive through that? I mean, I don't see no damn service road. Do you? Where's the road? I mean, maybe the trail. This is the trail right here. I don't know. Hey, I did want to cry on your shoulder for 1 second because I got a complaint. They said, why don't you make a video every day? And, you know, I wanted to point something out to you. It's real easy to sit in a chair and do an interview with somebody and ask a bunch of questions. And, you know, you have no scenery, no repercussions. You didn't have to go nowhere. You just work in your studio and do the video. And then, of course, you know, you got to gather your news. Same with the radio talk show. Although that's, you know, 3 hours. It's hard to talk for 3 hours. I mean, good God, sometimes my videos only last like 40 minutes. But, you know, you have to understand, when I get home after doing this, I got to get a shower. I got to eat some food. And shoes. The reason it popped in my head, because I have to change out the shoes about every, I don't know, 15 days or so, maybe 30 days. And I'm not talking about one pair of shoes. I'm talking to 2 or 3 because I switch up the shoes when I do these hikes. But every time I do one of these hikes, I mean, the shoes are filthy. The socks got black dirt all ground into them. So now you got all that laundry. You got to clean the shoes. You got to empty the shoes. You know, and then when you change out the shoes, you got to wash the shoes. You got to treat the leather. I mean, it's a lot of time that goes into these videos, man. Anyway, I'm just crying on your shoulder for just a minute, but I wanted to answer the person that asked, you know, why don't you make a video every day? It's because I try to do quality, not quantity. Although quantity seems to work better than quality, I'll admit that. All right, on the way back here, oh man, I need water. I always told you I'd hit some of the Make America Healthy news. I couldn't get the name of the state because it's kind of staticky on the radio, but Florida and another state, well, the other state has already banned it, but Florida's going to be banning fluoride in the water here soon. So we're getting a start on getting the fluoride out of the water. So that's a really, really good thing. So I wanted to hit you with that one. And then, of course, you do know that right now, I want to say NIH, I guess, they're conducting an investigation into the origins of COVID. Now, I think we all know the origin, and they're not going to get any more information because China has already concluded their investigation and said that it came from Fort Detrick. That's where they're saying, up in Maryland. They said it was a U.S. Propagated disease. It got 100% proof, and they put up a huge document. And if you want to watch Dr. John Campbell, he argues that that battle back and forth, because of course on our what is it covid.gov? I can't remember. It might be the website. Anyway, we're saying that it came from the China Wuhan lab. So I'm sure that will never get resolved. So but I did want to tell you about the fluoride. I thought that's just freaking great. And of course, you know, we got the dye out of the food. So that was a huge progress. Now the next step I want to see is let's eliminate the high fructose corn syrup in all foods. That needs to be taken out, and we'll just use sugar or other better substitutes in our to sweeten our soft drinks and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. There you go. They make America healthy. I just wanted the fluoride story out there. Man, it sucks. This video is going to get too long. Breaking news. Supreme Court just ruled that Trump and Pete Hegseth can remove transgender troops from the military. The only dissenting votes were the 3 liberal judges. Imagine that. I can't remember their names. Dissenting, Dior, whatever, you know him. That freaking judge that couldn't tell you what a woman was that the Biden administration nominated, that black woman and the 2 others that were there. So that's good news. Now, there's still going to be challenges to it, so it's not completely over the boat, but it just means they can get started. So that's good news. And then, of course, another breaking news. So Pete Hegseth just made an announcement that he's going to do a 20% reduction in flag officers in the military. If you didn't know, back during World War II, and I knew this because McGregor's talked about it quite often, we only had, I think he said it was 7 generals for 20 million troops during World War II. And right now we've got 2 million troops and we've got 44 generals. So we're going to start trimming that back. And he says, you know, we want that, we want to get lean and mean. We don't need the military money and the personnel and going to the headquarters departments. We want it going to the troops on the ground. And I totally agree with that. So there you go. Some good news, some breaking news. Of course, that's going to drive the liberals crazy. Woohoo! So I wanted to get a test because I think I screwed up this video. This is with Super Study off. And I bet it's going to look better than with Super Study on, because Super Study is meant to keep the subject of the video steady. Anyway, I just wanted to add one more piece of information that you probably already know. Was the Washington Post came out with an article, or the Washington Rag. I mean, that's how much I think we can trust the Washington Rag. And they gave the reason for Mike Waltz, excuse me, his move to the UN ambassadorship was they said that he was negotiating behind the scenes or behind Trump's back with Israel to work out plans to bomb Iran. And so they specifically said in the article, I believe Netanyahu himself, but I don't know that for sure. But just suffice it to say, he was working with Israel. He's a huge Zionist. So I'm glad to see him gone. I think Trump's going to get a little bit more level opinion. And if you didn't know, Stephen Miller, I don't know, the guy kind of with a bald head, he's been put forward as probably the next person to take national security advisor position. And he's a very, very good pick. So I'm happy with that. I was hoping General Flynn in a certain kind of way, but Miller would be just as good. I hope I got the name right. If not, I'll put it in the video to let you know, but I'm pretty sure I got the name right. Okay, another piece of breaking news that I heard. But the thing is, I would have thought it would be all over the radio. And I've only heard it one time, but evidently Yemen has said they're going to quit cease and desist their activity. So I guess if you kill enough civilians, you can convince a country to do what you want. Now, the Yemen are brave people, and I imagine if they really are pulling back on what they were doing, then, oh, check it out, I've got a green lizard here, just in time, huh? Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Oh, man, there he is. Let's get him along. So we'll just keep talking. But anyway, they must be probably running out of ammunition or missiles. And so it's like, why continue at this point, would be my guess. I don't think they would commit to it just because they were bombed. Wow, check that. Isn't that cool looking? Let's see how close we can get. Oh, there he goes. All right. I wanted to show you this. At least they repaired the trail. By the way, I heard it again on the radio. So yeah, it's over in Yemen. But if you don't put the pipe underneath here, this is just going to wash out. You see all the sand over here? So this the next big rain we get, this will just wash out again. I don't know why. You know, if you're going to do something, you got to do it right. Anyway, I had some other piece of news I was going to talk about, but I forgot what the hell it was. But if nothing else, I've heard, oh, it was Harvard. Yeah, it looks like we're going to cut them off from, and by the way, I did that in a previous video. Why in the hell are we sending Harvard money? They got billions upon billions. I don't even remember. It's some huge, like $52 billion in the bank from endowments. And why do they need our taxpayer money? I mean, so I'm glad they're cutting them off. I don't agree with the reasons. They're saying they got to eliminate anti-Semitism, which if you're going to protest the war in Gaza, I don't see that as anti-Semitism. But anyway, and what was the other one? I don't know. It was something else. It was kind of silly. But anyway, I'm just glad we're cutting them off from the money for whatever reason it is. It's even if it's not a good reason, but I would prefer a good reason. All right, I got the other one. It was the DEI policies at Harvard. That was the other reason. And then just heard on the radio that Mattel is going to have to raise their prices on the toys because they're made in China for that 145% tariffs. You know what I think? These parents shouldn't even be buying the kids those damn toys. Give them a damn shovel and let them go out and play in a sandbox, man, so they get some exercise. Take them to the pool so that they get some exercise and let them splash around. You know, don't buy them Chinese toys so they can sit at home and play with them. Same with buying all that damn, cell phones and tablets and, video games. Get your kids out. Get them exercising.